No surprises from France, but fear, disappointment and uncertainty have ensued among the people. A far-right government became a real possibility after Sunday's first round election. So the question is, what happens next? It is 1940s France. The Second World War is scripting history while France is being invaded by Nazi Germany. An authoritarian government is reversing liberal policies, bringing conservative Catholics to the mainstream and reducing the media to a puppet. That was the last time the French tasted life under a far-right government. Cut to 8 decades later, another far-right party, a long-time pariah, is on course to win elections.
Ça fait vraiment peur. L'extrême droite, c'est un peu un choc parce que...
It's scary. The far right is a bit of a shock. Because when we vote, obviously we expect that the results correspond to our choice. But it's a bit difficult for young people, that there's a party who's in the lead, who cares very little about us.
The National Rally has claimed victory in the first round of elections. An absolute majority looks tough. So Marine Le Pen is staring at a few sleepless nights to cobble up an alliance. France's far-right party of National Rally is not what it used to be. It has openly supported racism and anti-Semitism in the past, but Le Pen has sought to clean up the image of the party. And the 28-year young face of Jordan Bardella is doing the magic.
The problem is that I can no longer differentiate between Macron and the far right. That's my problem. Because it's a bit the same economic policy.
The extreme left and centre followed in exit polls. Their goal has shifted from wooing the voters to keeping the far right from power. The two factions have already decided to withdraw their candidates in regions where another candidate was better placed.
How the two other blocs, President Macron's bloc, centrist bloc, and the so-called Popular Front of the left, united together, are going to decide in the next election. There have been cases in which members of the centrist bloc have said they will stand aside to let the left win. And of course, the left leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, said yesterday that in cases where they came in third place, the left bloc would stand aside.
The clock is ticking, not only because the second round of polls is this Sunday, but bloodbath is expected in markets and on streets. French assets have taken a battering since snap elections were called, and streets of Paris saw protesters setting off flares right after Sunday's polls. The snap election was called by President Emmanuel Macron last month. Experts are calling it the worst gamble in French history. If the National Rally manages to come to power, Macron will still be the president, because parliamentary and presidential elections work separately in the country. But he will become a lame duck who will find himself helpless even if France is ungovernable. Bureau Report, WION, World is One. And to get us in perspective, we are being joined by political analyst Elijah J. Magnier from Paris. Mr. Magnier, thank you so much for joining us here on WION. Good to see you. I have to ask you, what do you expect from today to Sunday when the second round of elections are about to happen?
Thank you for having me. I think we have seen a serious change in the French election, but is not unexpected, because during the presidential election, when Emmanuel Macron confronted Marine Le Pen, that is the far right, he had only 23% of the voters, which means that he was already warned that people didn't want him. And people voted for him as a president in the second round only because they didn't want to try the far right.
Right.
After experiencing Macron for 4 years and then for additional 2, they really are ready today not to vote for Macron's in the National Assembly and try to vote for the far right and have a change in the prime ministership. Now, if Macron will have to cohabitate with the far right, but the far right said already, Jordan Bardella said, if I don't have the majority, 50+1, I am not going to run for prime minister. That will leave a space for the leftists to come into the power in coalition with other groups. Already, they have formed different coalitions.
Right.
But if Bardella manages to go through and become a prime minister, then President Emmanuel Macron will retain the defense and the foreign policy, and Bardella will retain the domestic policy. This is not the first time. Actually, it's the fourth time would be in a cohabitation between a president and a prime minister of completely different ideas and policy.
So are you suggesting that Emmanuel Macron will not be a lame duck then?
Emmanuel Macron will not be the one holding the majority, but will retain his position as a president because nothing in the constitution forces him to step down. He will remain, and he had to do exactly like François Mitterrand did with Jacques Chirac, and François Mitterrand with Édouard Balladur, and Jacques Chirac with Léonide Jospin in the past in 1986, 93, 97. He's not going to step down, and he's going to accept his defeat, which is already registered, unless he merge with the leftists, which is again impossible to see. Because, I mean, if he joined with the Republican managed to get 10%, and he managed 22%, he will still fall short to the majority and will not have the control of the Assemblée Nationale.
All right, Mr. Magny, thank you so much for joining us here on WION and getting us your insights.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.